So there's many, many different types of internships available for all majors and all forms of compensation. So we have internships that are paid, internships that are unpaid, which is about 50%. I've mentioned that already. We have internships that are for academic credit. We have stipend awards. We have international internships, on-campus internships, virtual internships, which is, of course, a response to COVID. And we recommend that students do at least 2 internships before they graduate. Before we move off of this slide, I want to mention the stipend award program is, a Magna Center supported program. So if you do get an unpaid internship, that's something that you can apply for, monies that's available so that you can afford to take that unpaid internship. So don't discount unpaid internships. And the academic credit internships, we could help you find it, but that would be authorized from the department of your major. So just wanted to clarify a little bit on that. Virtual internships are becoming more and more common. And we've gotten feedback from students that they had, equally or even better experiences with that. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind as well. But we recommend doing at least 2 internships before you graduate. So when do you want to consider, actually taking an unpaid internship? And there's lots of things that you could ask yourself when you're considering those unpaid internships. Do you have some experience in that field already? Will you have opportunities that will expand your network? Is it a reputable company? Does the internship provide you with training and exposure in your field? So we're saying don't just make it about money. Okay, there's lots and lots of great reasons to do an internship, whether it's paid or unpaid. The important thing is that it helps you decide, about your career path, and it helps you get that experience. You could always add it to your resume. And again, you could always connect back with those employers and your former colleagues for references and to network. Let's talk about the stipend award program a little bit. So are you one of those students who really cannot afford, and we have many, so this is not uncommon, to take an unpaid internship? The stipend award program might be the perfect thing for you. The stipend award is for those who plan to intern, but the internship is unpaid, okay? The stipend award will be available for both undergraduate and graduate students. So we got a question in the chat about this being information for graduate students. So here you are getting some additional information, and the stipend award is open to both undergrad and graduate students. It gives you the opportunity to fund an internship that you cannot do for free, of course. The base amount that you could get, which means the minimum amount that we would offer you if you applied and were accepted, is $1,800. So consider $1,800 versus zero, right? You really have nothing to lose by applying for the stipend awards. For the spring, the deadline is in October. And for the summer and fall, the deadline is in March. So you want to definitely keep those in mind. Just think about it as, if I want to do my internship in the spring, I have to apply the semester before, right? Which is the fall. And the same thing for the summer, you want to apply in March. Additional information, we had a link up there for information, additional information on the stipend awards. Oh, there it is back there. Yeah. So it's tinyurl/Magna stipends. We really try to make it really easy. Now, international internships, that's another great opportunity. Of course, it's limited these days during COVID, but we're hoping that, once this is over, we can get back to offering these types of opportunities. So the international internships allow you to experience another culture, which is great. And from what I heard from students, it's a lot of fun. It helps you prepare for the 21st century globalized market, right? So we're a big melting pot. You can earn academic credit while doing an international internship. It of course strengthens your resume. As we look at students' resumes to kind of help them review and revise it, I'm always super interested when I see, that someone has gone abroad, wherever it might be. So it definitely, I feel like employers feel the same way. And it's an interesting talking piece in your interview. And the summer is really a great time to participate in that international internship, as a lot of students are not in classes and you have a lot more time to do it. Next. So where do some of our students intern? Okay. So this is really just a small sampling of where our students intern. And I want to just make you aware that, and maybe you see this, right? One of the things I see immediately from this slide is that these are all companies that I'm really familiar with already. These are renowned places. These are places that I trust. These are places that I would like to work, right? So that being said, we have a lot of great opportunities available. We have alumni at a lot of these organizations, and what's great about having alumni is that they oftentimes want to give back. They're looking to hire Brooklyn College students, or mentor Brooklyn College students, or offer internships. So we have those connections, and I just want to point out here, since this is really STEM related, so we definitely have those sprinkled throughout, for STEM majors specifically, whether it be in health or nutrition or kinesiology or psychology, whatever it is, environmental. So we have like NIPERG, I could, you know, um, extract immediately, Bellevue Hospital Center. We have Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, which kind of helps everyone. We have Energy Garden, the Arthur Ashe Institute for Urban Health. We have Prospect Park Zoo, those that are interested in biology, veterinary. So we have lots and lots of different opportunities available. Next. Okay. So when can you intern? And the short answer to that is really every semester. We don't stop. Many programs have a rotation. They may take students each and every semester. They'll take a new cohort. And then we also have programs that are just the span of the year. So they might hire anytime where there's no deadline, like the MTA is an example of that. So for some organizations and industries like, say, the DA's office or the New York City Council, they might have interns throughout the year, right? So you can apply it anytime. Others might have it at a specific time where the duration could be at last just one semester. For example, if you did it in the fall and then they would take a new cohort in the spring. That's typically how it works. But we also have internship opportunities that happen over the intercession as well, those shorter or micro internships. But the point is, we do allow some flexibility there for you to work it out directly regarding the schedule with your employer. And if you do an internship during the summer, don't be surprised if the hours are more. Typically over the summer, it might be like having a full-time job. And during the fall and the spring, you might work typically up to 20 hours a week, but we do allow flexibility for you to work with your employer as far as time. What do the employers look for? Okay, so primarily, um, when we get those internship postings, a lot of them do stay junior and seniors. And that's because employers want you to have a little bit of knowledge under your belt. At least that's ideal. But what we are now seeing is where we're seeing a lot more pipeline programs, and pipeline programs tend to open up to freshmen and sophomores as well, to hopefully groom them over time, so that by the time they're a junior senior, they're up and running in terms of everything they need to know about the company, and then they groom them actually for hires. So that's really ideal, and a lot of those positions do convert into a part-time or full-time job. Typically, we see employers asking for at least a minimum of 3.0. And for some fields and some companies, it may be even a little bit higher, like 3.2 to start. Those typically are the ones that may recruit nationally, and are really more prestigious. So it really depends. There's some wiggle room there. You just have to know like what it is you're interested in and what they're looking for. The more competitive internships, I just mentioned this, they usually, again, may have a slightly higher GPA. Typically, we see like 3.2 or above for those positions. But you could definitely continue to apply for those. Okay, and then according to NACE, and you may have seen these before, right? So they look for interns, employers are going to be looking for interns that can communicate well, that work well within the team structure. And when I say communicate, it's not just talking, right? So it's your speech, it's writing, right? Because you have to send emails to your colleagues and send correspondence and write memos. So it's important to have a little bit of both, um, that you can make decisions, you can solve problems, that you're organized, that you're able to prioritize your work. And if you don't know the priorities, speak directly with your employer. You're an intern and they know that you're there to learn. But you should also have some basic proficiency in computer and software programs. So typically just starting out with the basics, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, would be enough. Now, how do you prepare, right, before you apply for these internships? You want to definitely clarify your career goals, right? So how do I go about doing that, Miriam? One of the things we suggest is, of course, meeting with a career counselor, conducting research regarding your careers, because it is a partnership, so we expect you to do your research as well. This will help you define your goals. All right. So we have a career assessment called the Color Cube. A lot of students have taken it. It's very short, but the results are amazing, right? So you could take this Color Cube, and basically what it is a personality test. It will tell you, well, based on your answers, it will then tell you, okay, like these are the top fields for you. Okay. So that's something that we recommend. You want to identify companies and your industries of interest. Choose your major early. And the defining your goals by completing that career assessment that I mentioned will help you also with choosing a major. So that's an important step. And then you want to participate, of course, in our panels, our company visits, networking opportunities that we are still doing virtually as well. In fact, we have some opportunities coming up. April is internships month. Okay, and we have some opportunities coming up We're actually going to be having an employer panel, which is April 27th. All of the employers on this panel are looking for interns. We will have an intern panel where all of these are former interns or current interns, and they're going to share their success stories with you, what you should and should not do. So um, I know that Ariel has the link to those. So if you want to consider participating, those are some of the things that are definitely coming up in terms of what we have available for interns. And also, there's a summer core coming up for students. If they're interested in doing something over the summer, it's in conjunction with the Summer Youth Employment Program, but they're going to be hiring lots and lots of interns. So we have the links for those. Ariel will put them in the chat before the session is over so that you have it. And for the summer core, we have a link to the form that you can fill out if you're interested in doing an internship over the summer. And lastly, before we leave this slide, of course, one of the things you can do is get a mentor. So hopefully at this time, you all have LinkedIn accounts, and that's a great way to connect with people. That's really the point of LinkedIn. And what they're saying is 85 to 90% of employers are now on LinkedIn. This is how fast it's growing and how vast it is. So you definitely want to link up with people and get a mentor in your field. So always in terms of applying for any internships, you're always going to need, of course, and your first step is having your resume. So what if I had limited experience? If you might be saying to yourself, if I have limited experience, what are some of the other things that I can include on my resume that will make my resume strong? And one of the first things is student organizations. A lot of you are already part of clubs or, student government or even the student newspaper. So those are things that you could definitely add to your resume to show that you're a leader while you're in college, right? You want to show your leadership role, okay? And of course, what this is all about, doing an internship, that's definitely going to strengthen your resume or doing more. Again, we suggest two. So doing at least two internships. Campus engagement, I mentioned this. Being on the student newspaper, being a part of student government and many of the other opportunities that they have for students to engage. Volunteering, right? So volunteering definitely counts. You don't have to be paid. The important thing is that you're getting the experience. Okay. And we have so many events and conferences, like, for example, one that we've had in the past, the Rising Stars, which is an internships conference. We even suggested to those students, put that on your resume because, that shows that you're taking initiative, that you're one of the leaders, that you're being involved. And employers do like to see that you're involved in other things outside of the classroom. They like to hire well-rounded students. And so this is some of the ways that you could show that. Okay. Now, if you want to, again, of course, brush up your resume, we have a sample guide, our quick reference guide to resumes and cover letters. And the link is there. And we're also dropping it in the chat. I'm sorry, dropping it in the chat so that you could take a look at it. We have some great samples in there, and there's something for every major. So if you don't know where to start or how to get started, and you're visual, meaning, like I could look at this and I could kind of mimic it and I could, make it my own, this is a great place to start. Now, hopefully at this point, you're all saying to yourself, I want to get an internship. because now we see, all of the great reasons why you should do an internship and you want to be at an advantage. So let's talk about how do you get that internship. Okay. So some of the steps, of course, is going to always start with your search. And, we give you some examples. I mean, there's many more out there, but, Hire BC is one. That's our database. Is of course not the only resource, but you could start there because if an employer has elected to add their post to our database, that means that they want to hire Brooklyn College students. So that's really a great place to start. You're only competing, with your other peers at that point. LinkedIn, of course, the value of LinkedIn. I just gave you a great statistic. 85 to 90% of employers are on LinkedIn. So it's a great place to be. But you also want to, look at some industry specific, websites, whether your major be computer science or, health, or, any of those other majors, kinesiology, biology, physics. I mean, there's some places if you're thinking, this is where I want to work. I want to work at Bellevue, you definitely want to look directly at their website to see what's available. So you have to do your search. And I'm sure we're going to mention this many times throughout this PowerPoint, is to network, and that's really important. We just had, the job fair, right? So we just had our spring job fair, great opportunities to network there. We do a job fair each semester, one in the fall, one in the spring. But we also, again, have a lot of events where, we're having employers join us virtually. So it's a great opportunity to network. In your network, you want to include family, you want to include alumni, you want to include mentors. Don't forget about the faculty. A lot of students don't think, oh, okay, the professor, these are experts in the field. So you definitely want to defer to them as well as us at the Magnet Center. And of course, attend events. The career fairs I just mentioned, recruiting presentations, employer presentations, info sessions, you name it, we have it, we have done it, and we have more planned for you. So what I always encourage students to do is, of course, you got to mix it up, right? Do a little bit of each, don't just focus on going to the websites and applying and starting to feel like, did they get my resume? Did it go into a black hole? I haven't heard anything. What's going on, right? Because you really have to do a little bit of everything. You got to be networking and going on the sites and attending events. And the reason for that is you're broadening the scope, right, of your search, which the likelihood is something positive will come from it. But you just don't know which one of these things it's going to be. So you have to really do all of them. Thank you. Okay. So some of the resources that we have to help you land that internship. Okay. You could always, well, this is really more so for questions, the intern at brooklyn.cuny.edu. So if you have some, feel free to use that email. That's a dedicated inbox regarding questions for internships. But again, some of these I've mentioned using Hire BC, right? Everyone who's here today is a little bit ahead of the game now, right? Because now you've already really having your internship 101 material behind you. So you're learning about that today. All of the CUNY campuses have vaults available. They let you know about, companies that have the best internships and, why employers might say that and information on salaries. So it's really a great resource and we encourage all of the students to use it. And the Magna Center itself has been maintaining a list of paid internships. In fact, everything this semester, our focus has been paid internships. So I don't know if you're recognizing the theme with the different things that we have going on, But we've been maintaining the list. So the top paid internships, that's a list that you want to check out. We're always adding new things to it. The same thing with Hire BC. We continue to add. Like literally, we could finish this PowerPoint and someone contacts us, hey, I got this great position. And so if you're really actively looking, you want to check often because things come in every day. And you don't want to miss anything. Another thing that you could do is subscribe to CUNY's weekly list of jobs, internships, events, and resources. This is a list you can subscribe directly, and it comes out every Wednesday. So look out for that. They tend to have lots of different opportunities available, especially for STEM students. So please subscribe. After the internship, what happens, right? So after the internship, and especially this is more so if it's for like, academic credit or if you're in the stipend program, we want to get feedback from the employers. So we do ask them to complete an evaluation, and you'll also be asked to complete an evaluation because we want to know what your experience is like. We want to know that it went smoothly, what the issues were. And it's really important to get this information because we do share it with other students as well. Of course, after doing any new experience, whether it be a job or an internship, you want to update your resume, right, to reflect that new experience. So you reach out to your career counselor again, and we work together to update that. And then, of course, you want to stay connected. You know, if that didn't turn into a position right at that moment, it could always come later. And the great part is now that that employer knows you already. So you definitely want to keep in touch with your contacts and your colleagues from your previous internship. Okay, so if you had that great experience or not so great experience, we do have a form. It's tell us about your internship, and we encourage students to kind of self-report that feedback right at that site. So a little bit, we would be remiss if we didn't mention this. This is something that's very relevant today. Is we have seen scams, and students have reported some scams that they have seen. So we post hundreds and hundreds. I want to say right now we might have about over 1,400 jobs and internships posted to our database, Hire BC. And due to our own limitations in terms of staff, 7 or 8 of us, we really cannot um, we can't look at each and every internship individually because there's a lot. We pre-screen as much as we can, but we're going to have to ask that you guys also be very vigilant about that. And so to help you with that, we remind you of course, to take precaution when you're contacting potential employers or meeting with them, because again, you don't know them, and they've just posted, to our system. So you definitely want to, of course, meet if you have to in a safe place. Fortunately, now lots of things are virtual, right? So you don't really have to think about meeting in person, but at some point we will all be going back to campus. Meet in public places if you have to, where there are other people around. And we try not to, well, actually, we don't accept, internships that are like in a person's home and things like that. So we just want you to be safe. Okay. In order to kind of remind you about these things, we do have a tiny URL that talks about the red flags, right? So when you're reading a posting, it should feel good to you, it should feel right. But we give you that list, like, don't you know, don't over like don't give out, very, very personal information like your social security number or stuff. So you will see that list at the tiny URL that Ariel just put in the chat, and just be mindful, and we want you to be safe with your search.
If a student, especially one that doesn't have a lot of experience, in a specific industry, is interested in a position, what can they do to really help ramp up their resume? Especially if the student doesn't necessarily have that working experience that might make an employer say, "Oh, wow, the student, sounds like a great candidate."
Mhm. Okay, and that's a great question. So one of the things we talked about in this workshop is, if you don't have a lot of experience, what other things can you add to that resume, right? That might catch an employer's eye. And one of the things I would say, of course, first and foremost, is definitely doing internships. Internships are designed to help you build that experience, to help you make that connection, right? So definitely that's one of the things. The other thing you could do is volunteer. Not everything has to be paid. Just think in the long run, what is this going to do for me in the long run, not the immediate gratification of pay. So, volunteering is a great way to get a company that you're interested in to get their name on your resume as a volunteer. And then there's some things just in terms of showing your student leadership. So joining clubs or professional organizations, these things also. Um, and if it's something related to your major that you could join, like if you want to be a journalist and you write get on the school student newspaper, so there's lots of different things that you could add to your resume that might get an employer's attention, and they want you to be well rounded, so that's something that they look for.
Saying, "I'm an international student. It is difficult for me to find an internship. Are there any suggestions or places where I can find one?"
Sure. Okay, so I agree with you. It is a little bit more difficult for international students. I would definitely start with the International Students Office by making sure that you can now take this position and what steps you need to do in order to be ready for work. And I mention that because we do have international students who want to work, but they're at a stage where they're not technically not able to at that time. So I would check with them first. And then as far as connections, for us, I know that MTA, New York City Transit, is one of the organizations that we work with that does take international students. And what's great about them is they really take students from all majors. So that would be one. Specifically, if you're a STEM student, I know that Bloomberg does accept international students as well. So I think those would be two that at least I know off the top of my head that you could start out with. Um, they're really big. They take lots of interns in terms of number of interns. So it's not like just a one-off, oh, I can only take one intern. They actually take a lot of interns, and they're looking for interns. So you could always feel free, if you can't think of anything right now, we're here. So you could always just email me. There's a phone number there and my email. And also, what I wanted to mention is you could get some ideas. I have a newsletter specifically geared to the majors in the School of Natural and Behavioral Sciences. I have a lot of resources there. I have things, posted of events that are coming up. I have things about your majors, like, what can I do with a major in health and nutrition, for example. So lots of great information there. Feel free to check it out. And that might be another great resource for you.
Thank you. That was a great and informative session. Hopefully, students take advantage of everything that we mentioned. And that if you guys have any further questions, as Miriam mentioned, you can always reach out to her. And you can also call our office number if you have any general questions about Higher BC or anything related to that.
Make sure to check out the My Career tab on the BC Navigator app, where where you can track your career progress based on the amount of credits you've earned, stay updated on upcoming events from the Magner Center, and watch our videos for insight and advice on your career field.